And let's then maybe share a case study example, no names, but some of the migrations that we've done that really stand out to you as a team.
Gosh, yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, there's two in particular that kind of stand out where there was. I'll give one example. There was one where we were working on a migration of 9 UK domiciled funds from one of our competitors. We had secured the RFP, and we're essentially the preferred provider. And we're working through with the incumbent and also the potential client around timings for that to go live. And the existing admin had a 6-month notice period, which was perfectly doable given that we had 9 funds. So Charlotte and her team pulled together a really, really detailed migration plan, when data needed to be flowed through, what the check's going to look like. Project plan meetings were all set up. 2 weeks into the start of that migration, a call comes from the incumbent administrator. Can you do it in 3 months as opposed to 6? Like, we kind of had this conversation for the last 3-4 weeks. So we went back to the client saying, look, yes, this can be done, but what we need to do now is put more resource onto this to fast track that process. And the data on that one was probably not too bad. I mean, because it was an easy way to get the data into the platform, but what it resulted in us doing is have to build into the system all those allocations that we had across the investor base, make sure all the transactional data was in there in a much shorter time period. And so some of the migrations that we've seen, you have to be flexible, right, during that process, because as you go through it, there's something that's going to come up. There's going to be a curveball. And the last thing you want to do is scare the CFO and say, and they go, well, we were right. We shouldn't ever have started this process. We were terrified of a migration. Look, this is what's happening. This is how we're going to cover it. And this is what we're going to do to address it. So that was one example where I think a few of us were a little bit put out by the incumbent, not necessarily playing ball, but these things happen. And there's another one that we worked on actually in Guernsey, which was a series of fund structures and a couple in the UK where the data was just so wildly inaccurate. We had to go back to the GP and have that conversation and said, look, we need to understand what's kind of going on here. We were almost considering reviewing board minutes from previous board papers to understand exactly what transactions had taken place, because the data was just all over the place. And it was really hard for us to kind of go through. And that was a 2-phase migration as well. And it was lucky it was probably a 2-phase given how bad the data was with the other provider.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, there's so many to choose from.
It was quite a few.
And yeah, they were good. And we did a big social housing structure for a big outfit. And this is one of the most memorable ones that we had. 1,500 units coming in, and the actual building, the development of the units, then they're kind of affordable renting out of those units, shared ownership and kind of staircasing of ownership, lots and lots of new transactions for us to build in our platform to be able to service, but also the requirement for, different gap accountings at different levels. I think in total we had 18 entities in our top consolidation, which again, we do all through the system. But, we run 2 GLs on this mandate. And it was, we were delighted. Our head of fund accounting was in the room when we presented it. It looked like it was his birthday. And it really was a big milestone for us. And as a result now, we have a very compelling social housing offering with, all of the technology and whiz that we need around it.